esta tecnología está aprobada. Entonces, si no hay esa confianza, evidentemente va a ser complicado de que podamos realmente avanzar. Por otro lado, estas ideas nuevas como la nanotecnología, desgraciadamente aquí en el Ecuador no se habla mucho de estos temas y las aplicaciones aquí las tenemos muy diversas, muy diversas. En el caso nuestro, yo vengo de la ESPE, nosotros estamos probando cosas nuevas con la nanotecnología para hacer remediación ambiental, porque igual tenemos que romper los paradigmas de que solamente con determinada tecnología se puede hacer cosas. Entonces, en esto sí el Estado debiera jugar un papel fundamental, en tratar de que en estas mesas de discusión estén también la gente que hace inversión, porque nosotros los universitarios ponemos las ideas, desarrollamos nuestros prototipos, pero ¿dónde está la gente que pone el capital de riesgo?
I wanted to, I think this is addressing part of what you said and also some of your comments. I was thinking about this, again, that getting things from the university intellectual property into industry is, I was kind of leaning towards it. Perhaps the university needs to actually spin it off as their own, as a business coming out of the university. And I was thinking about it, and I've also been learning a little bit about commercialization type grants where one develops, you know, it's not enough to have an invention. An invention is not a product. There's a huge amount of effort to take an invention and turn it into a product. There's all kinds of things. There's developing a market or understanding the market and packaging it properly for that market. And I realized that Cecilia had told me that there's a, that your business, I think you have a business school as well at Espol, as well as a, I think it has an entrepreneurship program in it. And at U of L, we have a very good entrepreneurship program. And in part of this commercialization work I've been doing, I mean, I found it to be very, it was like writing a research proposal or write a commercialization proposal. But you needed to go to the, well, the business school actually could study your problem as a case study. You could kind of tell them the parameters of the problem, and they would go off and help you develop a business plan, or really develop a model business plan. And briefly, actually, this one group joined my student's company. He's starting a business based on one of our inventions. So this is a real strength, and so I wouldn't look at them as a separate school. You should actually, whether or not you actually develop something, you should start developing case studies on your inventions with a business school and see if there's something in it and what it would take to move it forward. Again, it's people. It's for a small business, it is the person who wants to be the president of that company or go join that company is taking a huge risk. They have a huge enthusiasm for it. They're the greatest resource you have, more than the intellectual property. So you find that person and get him the right tools. Government doesn't know how to do it. They can foster and seed that with financial support and connect you with people and provide certain types of revenue rebates and tax incentives and things. But it's, you know, that's what you're looking for, is the entrepreneurial student, which is generally a combination of a very motivated engineering, scientist, inventor type, and a very motivated MBA type student who wants to start a company. And in the U.S., as far as starting companies, I mean, this was the thing that had been touted in the U.S. for at least 20 years. Many of the Republican presidential candidates would talk about, and the Democratic candidates would talk about how American innovation is being done by small businesses, by these people willing to take risks. And they said, you know, it doesn't matter if you start a business and it fails. You will learn so much from that that you'll go and start another business and start another business and start another business. And eventually you will succeed. And there's quite a bit, and that's actually supposed to be, as often quoted as kind of the American risk mentality. And you're not a failure. If your business fails, you're not a failure. As you know, on Wall Street today, if you fail, you get billions of dollars. Even that I can't imagine, but that's not even taking a risk. But those little guys who, And the other last point on this that I've heard, I don't know if you've heard it here, but I've heard the best people at starting a company, and this isn't necessarily a technical company, but the best persons who are willing to start their own companies and take a huge risk are C students, not an A student or a B student, but C students who always felt inferior, all of a sudden decided that they could start their own business. So everyone has a chance at this, at starting their own businesses, and I think it really is a can-do attitude is more valuable than the intellectual property you hold in many cases.
I have one thing to add. In this case, we are talking about really two different things. One of them is the entrepreneurship, which is, as Dr. Cohn mentioned, and you mentioned, that's an important thing. That's the entrepreneurship. The second thing is the entrepreneurship of nanotechnology. Now, there's a problem there. When you talk about entrepreneurship, you may talk about selling shrimp. You may have the recipe, you may come up with better shrimp. You may know the market, and you can go for that. But with nanotechnology, now there's an uncertainty there. You are not sure, the government doesn't know, the universities do not know necessarily, and even you don't know what to learn or what not to learn, which elective courses you should take, when you should start playing with the nanotechnology ideas. But for that reason, I think there should be more interaction at this point in Ecuador, not only in Espol, but in Quito, in other places, that there should be more discussion between the universities and industries. I think you mentioned the paint. I imagine Sherwin-Williams here is a good candidate to start the nanotechnology research. I can imagine Sherwin-Williams will be a good place for many students to do the internship. And if they do the internship, if they start understanding their problems and how to bring it to the market, this will play a big role. And I can imagine there are so many different type of plants in highlands here or in Galapagos on the shore that a paint company will benefit significantly in Ecuador than many other places in the world. For that reason, I expect there would be more communication between different entities. That communication, I teach a course. I mentioned a little bit to the freshman class, and we start with the steam engine, and we discuss why steam engine, why James Watt suddenly invented the steam engine there, which could have been anywhere else. And when you look at the process of that invention, or the process of perfection, not invention maybe, it's innovation, as Dr. Toner mentioned. James Watt was the master of innovation rather than invention. Invention of steam and use of it for engine was already around, but innovating it required the place, which happened to be Glasgow and then London, which needed people who were able to work on the details of it, and then it needed money. Money was coming from the Lunar Society, it was coming from the banks, and in this case, when we talk about it, we are talking about venture capitals, we are talking about government giving the small business initiative research grants, SBIR grants. If we started with this kind of approach, we will find out that every company has a chance. And it's a matter of coordination. And I hope that Dr. Paredes will start collaborating with you and coordinate these activities between entrepreneurship, with government, with the other universities, and finally with the students, to put all of them on the table.
Otra pregunta.
Bueno, solamente porque escuchaba con el doctor Cohn, el profesor Cohn mencionaba sobre el tema de los candidatos republicanos y demócratas del Estados Unidos. Ellos hacían obviamente cierta participación dentro de lo que es la ciencia y la investigación. Pregunta, la política, o mejor dicho, los políticos, deben tener una visión global sobre el tema de ciencia y tecnología frente a sus propuestas para los conciudadanos a los cuales ellos vayan a proponer sus candidaturas.